What's up, friends? Welcome back to my channel, and oh my god, I am so excited for this video. One, because I did in fact fall off for a couple of weeks and this is my first video in a minute, but more importantly, since I have been gone, I have crafted what I feel is like the best, most useful version of my Notion yet. And not only am I going to share it with you today to show you how I intend to plan my days and weeks and months for 2025, but I also made a template that I will be sharing with you for free. And that is something I've never done before. It's always been like a goal in the back of my mind to eventually share my template, and it has been asked for at least once in previous videos, and today I'm gonna share it with you. So the free template is linked below if you would like to check it out and duplicate it and download a copy for yourself to integrate into your own Notion. But I do hope that you will stick around and watch the entire video because I'm going to take you through how I organize this Notion template for myself, and I'll also walk you through the template itself and provide a little bit of like context and instructions for how to use it. But quickly before we get into that, if you are new here, then I'm so excited that you clicked on this video. My name is Sarah. I'm 30 years old. I'm a health coach. I live in New York City for now, soon to be moving to Philly. And on this channel, I post plan with me's, though put an asterisk on that because I have an update about that soon. But I do like plan with me, reset type content. I do New York City lifestyle content. I do what I eat in a days. I do bake and chat with me's, all sorts of things. So if you are interested in any of that, please subscribe below, give this video a like, and I would really appreciate it if you did. But okay, so here is my new Notion template. If you've watched any of my other plan with me's or resets, we haven't even scrolled yet, but you will see that she has gotten a facelift. I have a totally different color scheme now, different artwork, different kind of everything. Before, my Notion was like in the lavender, purple, kind of blue color range, and as much as I did love that, I'm finding that my obsession with the color lavender and purple is like seeping into too many areas of my life. And I fear that I may grow tired of it if I keep just like buying purple things or utilizing purple in the way that I decorate my apartment, the way I decorate my Notion, all of that. So I leaned away for the purple for now. So as usual, when you first come to the page, it is just the dashboard, and it really does incorporate a lot of the same things that I had in previous iterations of my Notion, but just organized in kind of a more, I hate to use the word aesthetic, but a more like aesthetic way, a more fun way, a more organized way. So the top portion was where I have links to all of my important pages that are organized by lifestyle, goals, and social media. We'll get into each of these in a second. And then scrolling down is where I have my calendar and to-do list, routines, pending tasks, my weather widget. You'll see that there's a lot going on in this section, and we will definitely be getting into that. And then just here at the bottom is where I have a section for a little brain dump and then quick links. So I think what I love most about what I have created with this new Notion template is just how integrated all of the different sections are. Well, not all of them, but most of them. So this is kind of the main hub calendar, but you'll see when I show you other pages that I have similar calendars or views of it, whether that's a board or gallery or something, that link directly to this calendar. That way on my dashboard homepage, I can see all of the things that I need to be doing on any given day. For the routine section over here, I have this organized by my work from home days and then my in the office days, and I also have like different work schedules within that. So to keep myself organized, I talked about this in my 2025 plan with me and kind of how I'm organizing each of those days, but I essentially just copied those lists over here. But this could also be, you know, for people that have maybe more stable routines, maybe it's a morning routine, a night routine, a weekend routine, or you can make this whatever you want. It could also be like a checklist and not just a list. For me, it's just kind of like a reference of I will go back and look at this as I'm planning my week. So with this calendar, the one thing that I'll name while we're still looking at this view of it before I go to the blank template is that there's so many different ways to go about it, but how I have been using it is that there are things that I add directly to this main dashboard calendar view because I don't have other linked database calendars that reflect that information, if that makes sense. Like, so for movement, every single day I will make I plan on like a weekly basis. So each week I will go in and add my movement for the week. I'll use the little movement tag. I will say what that activity is going to be. And I do that just directly on this calendar because I don't already have a separate page that I talk about movement on. I used to, but not anymore. Whereas for meals, you'll see I do have a separate meal planning and tracking page, and there's a similar calendar on on there that links directly to this. Maybe that feels like overkill, but I think you'll get it when I show you the template because you can see how easy it is. Because looking at this and planning like this, I understand can be overwhelming. So when it comes to certain things like my social media planning, my meal planning, I do those on separate pages that only reflect those activities, and then they all feed into this main calendar here, which I think is really cool. And I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but I have this pending tasks section, which is something that you could easily, like, say I wanted to clean out my closet this Saturday. Am I actually gonna do that? Probably not. But hypothetically, I could just drag it from the pending tasks section over to Saturday, and all of a sudden it pops up. Now that it's no longer a pending task necessarily, I could go in and change that. So maybe for me, I would count that as productivity. And voila, it is there and I can check it off when it's done. And then I still have my remaining pending tasks on this side. Okay, so now we are in the actual template that, like I said, is available down below. So there are some things that will look slightly different from the way that I'm utilizing Notion or the way that I'm utilizing this template, and I'll try to call attention to those things as we come across them, but also know that in the actual template version that's uploaded online, there will be instructions at the top here that kind of goes over things. So you'll see that everything is empty, everything is clean, so you can make magic happen with all the things that you individually want to do. So with that, I will say that everything is very customizable with this template, right? So whether it's the pictures, whether it's the icons, the color scheme, all of it can be changed to your liking. And I will just say that the images I used for my cover here and then these individual icons, which are the same, are just pictures that I took from Pinterest. Same with these icons down here. Backgrounds are just Pinterest, and then I move things onto Canva. I choose frames, I choose fonts, I save everything as transparent if needed, or I just set the sizes, and then I embed things here as images. So you could go through the same process if you would like. I don't have templates for those things. Maybe I will in the future, but either way, you can kind of customize this to fit your needs. You could simply just delete this entire picture if you don't like it. Even just make like a main heading here instead that says calendar and to do. You could make it your own color. Maybe you want an orange background. You can delete this and then make all these things like orange and blue if that's your favorite colors. I don't know. So once again, there's just so much you can do here, and if you are still brand new to Notion, then I hope this is a good template without many edits that can help you get used to the program. Or if you are new to Notion and you're like ready to jump in and really customize it, but you're not really familiar with the functions of Notion, then there are plenty of other, people on YouTube that make tutorials for that, and I highly recommend you check those out. So before we get into the pages, just a review of things that are on the main page here. So we have the routines. I did just update these to say morning and night because I imagine that's what like most people would use this section for, but again, you can make these whatever you want. You can make them a checklist, a bullet list, just write things out. We have our calendar that I will show the integration of all the linked views in, but again, if you just want to make something on your own, say for today you wanted to add what your movement's going to be, and you're going to be doing Pilates at 7 p.m. after work. You could type that in. For activity type, this is where I have all of the different activities. You can also create your own. So maybe you want your own section for Pilates, you could do that. You can use the movement ones. Of course, you can delete the ones that I have. You can change these colors. There's so much you can do that I'm not going to get into. And then the rest of these things don't matter because they apply to other sections of this integrated calendar. So in terms of what we're doing right now, that would be it. And then there you go. Pilates is done. And then after 7 p.m. when you go to that class, you can check it off. I have it set up where once you check something off, it disappears, which is also why I have this other all tasks section that documents everything. That way, if you either need to go back to it or you just want to reflect on what you've done, it's organized by activity. So you can see down here, Pilates at 7 p.m. did that on February 4th. So if for some reason you accidentally checked it off, you can unclick it, go back to the calendar view, and it shows back up. So as you saw on my version of this, I have everything on here from my daily movement, daily habits like reading, all of my social media stuff, my meal plans, and then just like random little tasks and reminders. And actually quickly, a comment about habits. You will see that this is probably like the one Notion page in existence that doesn't necessarily have like a built-in habit tracker. And that's because I use the Finch app for all of my habit tracking. I did used to use Notion for habit tracking, but ever since using the Finch app, I just find that that's like the most helpful and most motivational for me. So fortunately or unfortunately, I'm not sure however you view it, there is not like a direct habit tracker in here, but you could either integrate one, you could make one. But if you're wondering why there is no habit tracker, that's why. But totally get why you maybe want to add one to it. Something else that can be helpful that I do have set up in mine, but it's just hard to show you, is recurring tasks. I have like a love-hate relationship with recurring tasks on Notion. Let me just show you why. So if you want to create a template or a task that recurs like on a weekly basis or every couple days, every couple months, you can do that by hovering over to where it says new, clicking on the drop down and say create a new template. So let's say hypothetically I wanted to clean my bathroom every single Saturday. We could do clean bathroom, select the activity type, maybe that's productivity, click out. So the template is created, go back to the drop down, you'll see clean bathroom is right here, hover over the 3 dots, you can turn on repeat, and we want to do this weekly on Saturday, so I would select weekly, select Saturday, and you could input a time. So as of right now, this would repeat every Saturday and the task itself would be created on the calendar at 12 a.m. at midnight, but you could also change this to be a different time. I normally keep it midnight. There might be a use to put it at a different time, whatever you would like to do. But you can also do it by day, by week, by month, by year, or just turn it off. Now that you have the repeating like variable set up, you'll want to go back to the task, click on the 3 dots, go to edit, and then under due date, you'll see these shortcuts for now and today. So we're gonna select today, so that way every time this is duplicated, so in this case every Saturday at midnight, it will duplicate to the date when it was duplicated, if that makes sense. So this is guaranteeing that it shows up on Saturdays. If this isn't selected, then it's not gonna show up in the calendar because there's no date assigned to it. I'm not sure if that makes sense. If it doesn't, just follow along and I promise it will still work out for you. So we click away. But as you will see, we just created a new recurring task for Saturdays, but it does not appear on Saturdays because it's set to reoccur at midnight every single Saturday. So even if we go to next Saturday, next Saturday, next Saturday, it is not there. So that is the one thing about reoccurring tasks in, I keep saying recurring, repeating is the function. The thing about repeating functions in Notion is that they don't show up until the day that you intend to do it, which is kind of frustrating, which is why for certain things like my movement, personally, I just go in and manually add that every single week for all, 5 or so days. But there's certain things like, for instance, on Sundays, I have a recurring task to feed my sourdough starter. And that's one of those like small things that takes no time to do. I don't necessarily need to plan for it, so I don't mind that I can't see that until Sundays. Also, I've been doing that every Sunday for like 2 years, so it's kind of just like ingrained in my mind. Whereas, I could see the helpfulness of, not having your Pilates at 7 p.m. hidden until midnight the day of, because out of sight, out of mind, you may not remember that it's there, you forget to do it, it's less likely to happen. So I would say use the repeating function for certain things, but not for all things. And maybe, fingers crossed, one day Notion will come out with a function that allows you to set up recurring tasks that appear in advance. That would be great. Oh, then one other thing quickly with the calendar, if for some reason you wanted to get out of this weekly view, that's how I have it set up. I also have it set up to be viewed on Mondays. If you go into your Notion settings, you can change that to your start day to be Sundays. I just prefer Mondays, but you can also change it out of the weekly view. So if you don't want to look at a weekly view, you want to look at a monthly view, go to these 3 dots up here, layout, you'll see calendar, click on that, show calendar as week. You could switch it to month and then the whole month pops up. And you'll see I have it for some of my other pages. For the integrated calendar, I have it as week. Some of them is by month. It just depends, and you can change it up to fit your needs. So we keep scrolling. We have the weather widget here. There will be instructions on how to integrate your own weather widget. Otherwise, it's just going to show up as New York. And if you're not living in New York, then that's kind of useless. Have your little brain dump section where you could just type things. You need to make a quick note about something so you don't forget. Quick links. I already added the embedded property here. So once you have a link that you would like to make a quick link section for, you can click on this, copy and paste your link. Super easy. You saw on mine, I think I had my Pinterest page, my YouTube page, and my story graph for tracking my reading. So this could be whatever you want it to be. Okay, so now getting back into my individual pages, the main ones I'll try to go over in more detail. Some of the simple ones like long-term goals and like gift ideas are pretty like self-explanatory, so I'll show them to you, but there's not much to them. But meal planning, so this is an exciting one. So I love my meal planner tool. I use this thing all the time. Granted, this is coming from someone who loves meal planning and grocery shopping and all of that, but I do like to think that this is a really helpful tool for people who really don't care to do those things but also want to stay organized with it. I feel like it's a really simple tool, but if you're also a food nerd like me and get excited about those things, there's a little bit of that too. So I have at the top my grocery list. So living in New York, it's impossible to get all the things that I want from just one grocery store most of the time. So I have 3 different lists. So here's where I would put different store names. So maybe this is Trader Joe's, this is Whole Foods, and this is like the bodega or something. And then as I think of things, you know, whether I'm sitting down to plan for the week or I have a random thought pop in my head or I'm cooking something and I realize I'm like out of garlic powder, I can just quickly go into my Notion because I have it on my phone and then add the items as I need it. And then when I go to the grocery store, again, because I have this on my phone, I can just have the Notion app open. I have it open to this page and I can just check things off as I go. So a useful tool for me for meal planning as well is just having kind of like a running list of ideas of things that I may want to eat in any particular week. It also doesn't have to be any single week. Like these breakfast, lunch, and dinner ideas can be a much longer list that just kind of tracks all the things that, you know, if you're not someone who cooks a lot or doesn't enjoy cooking, you have kind of your go-to meals. You could have those listed out here just for easy reference. For me, I'm more so using this kind of similar to brainstorming grocery items that I need. You know, anytime I have a thought of, oh, like I have leftover like salsa from making tacos this week, like next week I want to use that to make an omelet or something, right? So I may not make that omelet this week, but I can go in and write omelet here. That way when I go to do my weekly meal planning on Sundays normally, I can see this and be like, oh yes, Sarah of the past had that brilliant idea to use her leftover salsa to make omelets this week, so that's what I'm gonna do. I also now know that I need to get eggs, so then I'll go and add eggs to this list, and there we go. Simple. So continuing on my personal process for meal planning, once I have the ideas of the things that I want to make, I have made the grocery list of the things that I need to buy, I then will put everything onto my calendar for the days on which I want to eat all of the things that I've decided to eat. So for this, I do have a weekly view and a monthly view. You'll see the weekly view is kind of a hot mess right now, but how this is set up, once you have things listed out, it will show only the dates for that week, again, starting Monday going to Sunday. So if you're just starting off with this, it's easier to kind of input it in the month view. You could also technically change this to a week view by doing the same thing, but let's say hypothetically, I'm gonna be making an omelet for breakfast tomorrow. We can click a new page. Making my omelet, the activity type already defaults to meal, and that way it shows up in my integrated calendar. And then down here, the only other thing we need to pay attention to is meal type, and that would be breakfast. Once I click off, it shows up as breakfast. We can do the same thing for lunch. Maybe I'm having a PB&J. Making that for lunch shows up as lunch, and then for dinner, we're having lasagna. So that's how things will start to show up. You can also duplicate things. So say that you're having an omelet, you know, twice next week or this week, we can duplicate it. It creates a new page. Go back to the meal planning view. We got omelet again. You can move it over. You can, of course, also just like create a new page. That might be quicker sometimes, but that's essentially how it would be set up. And then, like I said, if you go over to the week view, it will start to show you everything that falls within this week. So if I were to put something for next week, say we have another PB&J for lunch next week, I will see that reflected here, but it's not going to reflect in this section yet because it's just a week view for whatever week it is. So I hope that makes sense. If you are more of like a tactile, I need to do things to learn rather than a visual girly, then I encourage you just to download the template and start to play around with it. Follow along if you need to. I promise it does make sense once you start using it. And then lastly, once everything is on this calendar, and again, this is a calendar that is just viewing your meals and it is organized. There's no other clutter of other things, so you can effectively plan your meals for the week or the month if you wanted to. But because it is on this view, you might be following. If we go back to dashboard, look at that. It also pops up on your main page, so it is an easy reference if you are on the go and just quickly need to reference and don't feel like, you know, fidgeting to find your meal planning, whatever. It is reflected right here. So we now have our meals, we have our movement, and as I showed you before, we have all those other properties and activity types that you could input things here. You can have the repeating series. That's how this can get crowded very quickly, which is why I have some of the sections broken down to their individual pages. But then last but not least, what I do have on my personal Notion, but not on this template, is a nutrition tracker that I made and added a couple months ago. And honestly, I don't really use it all that often anymore. I don't know, I was feeling very inspired by nutrition a few months ago. Not so much these days, but the reason it's not on here is because it is like probably 99% duplicated from another creator who has a full tutorial on YouTube. Otherwise, if you just want to download the template, they do charge a fee for it. So it is not my property. I do not want to integrate it. I will put the link to his YouTube video I think it's always been in my descriptions for Plan With Me's, but I'll make sure it's also in the instructions for the section. That way, if you wanted a nutrition tracker, you can make that happen. Okay, so that was meal planning. Next, under lifestyle, things to buy. This still has all my stuff in it. It will be deleted by the time that you see this, but this is where you could list out the things that you need to buy. Again, if you can't tell by now, I'm someone that once I have a thought in my head, I need to like put it down on paper so I don't forget it. So once I have a thought to buy something, right, like when I'm running out of makeup products or things I need to buy or have an idea for our wedding registry, I can just brain dump that all here and it is nice and organized. So for your things to buy section, you can organize it by whatever you want just by going to the three dots up here, going to properties, clicking on type, and then you can add additional options or delete the ones that I have. Similarly, for gift ideas, it's the same idea. So we have a property up here for type where you can input people's names, and then as you're having ideas for birthday gifts or Christmas gifts or other holiday gifts, things that you'd like to buy people but you don't want to forget about it, you can put all that information right here and just create a new page for it, type it in, and there you have it. DIY projects, this is a new one that I just created like a couple of days ago, and I'm still kind of playing around with it, but I still included it for the template in case you all find it useful as well. I have been saving a lot of like home inspiration things onto Pinterest, but sometimes that gets a little overwhelming, and you know, sometimes I save ideas that I never actually act on, or it's like a mix of things that I want to make or things that I want to buy. So I made a separate section on my Notion for DIY projects. That way I can track what the thing is. I can link to the inspo, whether maybe that was like an Etsy listing or something I saw online, instructions, if there's a tutorial somewhere on YouTube of how to make that thing. If you saw in the little like preview video I showed, I had some like macrame and a plant trellis on there, so I can link in there the instructions for making those things, notes, supplies needed, and then down here, if you put a picture, it will show up here. Next, moving into goals, this is where things have been changed around a little bit, at least for me, in terms of this channel. So as I talk about this, I'll also just give an update that I don't think I will be doing monthly Plan With Me's anymore. So that's for a couple of reasons, but I think the biggest one is that they just feel very redundant a lot of the time. You know, when I'm looking at things month to month, not too much is changing, and I don't know, if you've watched any of those videos, you can probably just get the sense from me that like they're not very motivating. I don't always stick to things, and I think what I'm learning about myself is that I like to think about things on like a smaller daily or weekly level, or like big idea thinking, and kind of the in-between of that, like the monthly Plan With Me is just doesn't seem really worth it anymore. So that's why you will not see a monthly Plan With Me section anymore, and I've turned it into a quarterly section. And I also still have my like long-term and annual goals, as you saw. We'll get into that in a second. For the purposes of this Notion template, I have quarterly planning. Then for the purposes also of my YouTube channel, we will be moving into quarterly planning, and I might be doing more like reset type videos in between. So each of these sections look the same. So if you click on the first one for quarter one, you will see it's similar setup to how my quarterly reflections were previously, which was a template that I downloaded from another creator, and I've kind of just like added to it, changed it up a little bit. So start off, since each quarter has 3 months in it, choosing a photo that just kind of like sums up that quarter, things that brought me joy, things that I want to remember if I ever go back to reflect on these different quarters. So starting off with 3 pictures, 1 for each month. And then reflections, I have new reflective questions because I didn't really resonate with the ones that were on there before, and I have these on the template, but of course you could change these to be whatever you want. So I have what was my biggest accomplishment, how did I take care of myself, what do I want to focus on in this next quarter, what can I do to challenge myself and grow in this next quarter, and what important things or events are happening this quarter, and just listing those out. These feel a little bit more targeted and a little bit more motivating, and then based off of kind of how the reflections go and what information is put there, I feel like it's helpful to then create goals for not just 1 month, but all 3 months. And if you see this database right here, you might already be guessing that it is linked to that main calendar. And yes, it is. There is a theme. So this is where you could list out your goals. So there's different check boxes. So when I would come back to do my Q2 reflection, I would first come here to see what goals I did and then go to the Q2 page to make the whole new sheet. I just realized this did not specify Q2 goals. So we are in the Q1 reflection, but this would be making goals for Q2. So let's say for what would the end of Q2 be? April, May, June. So by the end of June or sometime between April and June, I want to read 3 books, 1 for each month. You can see here that the activity type is already set up, so it is labeled as a goal. And then for the due date, this might be helpful for some goals. Other goals may not be like that specific, but let's say I wanted to read 3 books by the end of June. So I can go ahead, I could pick June 30th, and it pops up here. And then you will also see, going back to the main dashboard, if we went over to June, scroll down, voila, read 3 books pops up, which, especially if you are looking at the monthly view for this main calendar, this is kind of a good indicator, you know, as you get to the beginning of June and you're looking at your days, you can be reminded of like, oh yes, I wanted to read 3 books. I'm only halfway through my 2nd book, I better pick up the pace. And then perhaps you start to make different, you know, daily goals for reading here, I don't know. But once again, just one other thing that is integrated about this Notion, which I think is really cool. So then pretty self-explanatory. You can make as many goals as you want. Maybe some of them have due dates, some of them don't. Either way, you still have this independent section that doesn't reflect anything else that's on that main calendar. This is just your goal, so you can always come back here to see what's going on. Also, the reason this says due and upload date is because you can only have like 1 date assigned for things, and I also use this for my social media, which you'll see second, and that the language-wise upload date felt better, but you can change that if you want, if you're not a social media person. All right, so then for annual goals, not much has changed about this. So I have mine broken down by personal goals, social media goals, finance goals. I have a little countdown, but you could change this to be whatever you wanted. So maybe you only want personal and financial, or maybe you don't want social media goals, but you want like business goals or hobby goals. You could put whatever you wanted here. Long-term goals, pretty self-explanatory. Anything that is essentially longer term, not happening in a year's time. I kept this pretty simple. You can make this page whatever you want, but you can just list your long-term goals, you know, as they are in progress and then when they're done. So I know, for instance, for one of mine, I think is paying off my debt. So that's something that is in progress because I'm making good progress with it, but it's not paid off. Once it is paid off, I will click done. I think I also have get married on here. I guess that could be in progress now that I'm engaged, but initially when I made that, I wasn't engaged, so it was not started. But when it's done, I can move it to done. All right, and then just quickly for the social media stuff, I won't get into it too much just because not everyone that uses Notion or will be using this template is into social media. So this is a whole section that you can make into whatever you want it to be. I have a page for content planning and my growth tracker. So content planning, this setup probably looks familiar by now. So this is where everything that's reflected on this page is just social media. You don't see any meal stuff, you don't see any goal stuff. So it's very nice and neat. So let's say I wanted to do a February reset video for YouTube. I want to upload that by this Saturday. You'll see it already pops up, and then we can add different tags. So maybe I'm filming it by Thursday, and that's reflected on here as well. Platform, YouTube, but it could be Instagram, could be TikTok, could be anything else. And then the activity type, which is how it is filtered, is automatically applied as social media. And then you can start to fill up your content planning calendar. And of course, if we go back to the dashboard, you will see that on the main calendar, it pops up February reset video. It doesn't include additional information in here, but if I clicked on it, you can see that I wanted to film that by the 6th. Last but not least, this is my growth tracker. I don't believe I've changed much about this, and I do think this is downloaded from Alexis Eldridge's growth tracker. So as always, I give credit to the creators that I get inspiration or templates from down below. I'll also give credit to them in the main instructions page, but just want to call attention to it because I don't think this has changed, but she also does have her templates available for free download. But this is where you can track TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube if you're into that kind of thing. But okay, that about sums up my new Notion tour, walking you through the template. If you can't tell, I am super excited about it, so if you do download it, let me know in the comments, let me know how you like it. For me, I know Notion is always kind of a work in progress. I'm constantly editing and updating things, so as I edit my own template, I will try to remember to update like the actual template that is available. That way any changes that I do that you all have access to as well if you do use it. And yeah, definitely in an upcoming video, well, I suppose you'll definitely see my Notion again come the end of March when I do my Q1 reflection and do some goal setting for Q2, but definitely between now and March will still be some same sort of like planning reset content, because I do like doing reset videos that, you know, might incorporate Notion a little bit, but it's not like a sit down video like, let's plan my life. It's more so like, let's organize the apartment, let's be productive, let's go out and do things, grocery shop. So there's still gonna be productivity type videos on my channel. There just won't be a monthly plan with me anymore. So as I said, if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe below. I would love to have you around, and I will see you very soon for the next video. I'm actually not sure at this moment what it's going to be, but I have a lot of ideas because I've been using my content planner. I have a lot of ideas. So I will see you next time.